to open the Gracie Barra in Carlton. So I think I owe a lot to him for the inspiration and all the ideas and everything. And I think also the students from GB Carlton, they don't know that. Now the ones who are here, they know, but they owe something to him as well, in the sense that if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have opened the school and wouldn't have built a beautiful community that we are building there. So yeah, thank you so much, Pedro, for joining us, and very, very excited for the interview. Thanks, Nick, for running it too. And I'll pass back to you, Nick.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Professor Rodolfo. Pedro, thank you so much for coming. Maybe you can just say a quick hi to everybody.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for the introduction. Hi, everybody. I can see like some familiar faces. Yeah, it's very nice to be here and be able to join you guys for those questions. And it's very nice to see some of the past students of Gracie Barra Bondi, like Michael Dang.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just want to say thank you for, Professor, to start me on the my jiu-jitsu journey. So basically had a phone call with the Professor Pedro, and now never turning back, and then also give me the opportunity to meet a Professor Rodolfo, and then now joined the amazing family. So thank you. I just want to say thank you. For you to start the great journey for me.
You're welcome, Mike. I think one of the greatest pleasure we have in life as a professor instructor is to see some of you guys going like for years and years and years, and finally one day to the black belt, because the amount of people they give up on the way, it's kind of like, and as an instructor, it's a heartbreaking. But it's we have this kind of policy. We just teach with love whatever we have to teach for the person that's in front of us in that day. If that person is coming back tomorrow or not, it's a different scenario, isn't it? But it's good to see you guys like keep the journey.
That's it. And some positive energy through the lockdown. It's so cool to see so many faces here. Alrighty, let's get into the questions then, Professor Pedro, into the hot seat. So,
it's a questionnaire, yeah.
Yeah. I got a few.
You told me that you would send some questions to me during the day. I was waiting for the whole day. I didn't receive anything.
I know. I forgot to send, and then I thought, look, you'll do fine. You're a smart guy, and maybe the pressure of thinking on your feet will get some information out of you that you wouldn't have given us otherwise. We'll see what happens, huh? So I've asked you some of these questions in the past, I know for sure. And I've asked Felipe and Rodolfo these too, but I'd like to hear from you, the beginning of your jiu-jitsu journey back in Porto Alegre. So I know I've asked you this one before, but I've long forgotten the answer. So when you started jiu-jitsu, why did you start jiu-jitsu?
I started jiu-jitsu, I believe, was in the very end of 1999. And I used to, since I was a kid, I was very fan of Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Rambo, whatever the guy was like kicking a punch the other guy, I was the big fan of that guy. And I always wrestled with my cousins and friends, and until one day I had a friend that looked at me and said, "Wow, do you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?" I said, "I have no clue what it is." And he was like, "Oh, I'll take you there." I said, "Okay." And this guy was like, his name was Marcelo. We used to call him Marcelinho, like Professor Rodolfo and Jockman. They know it was one of the toughest guys that we have in the gym back time. And that's pretty much how I started. I didn't have the intention. I wasn't even looking for something. Well, I was looking. I tried Kung Fu, I tried Karate, but in South Brazil wasn't many schools. And one day, one guy just, I think like the majority of us, someone tell us what Jiu-Jitsu is about. It's like, I might give it a go. And then I dropped every other sport that I was doing back time. And I got so like passionate about Jiu-Jitsu, and that's how it all started.
And sorry, continue.
No, when I was teenager, I was a good age as well.
I was going to ask, so when you began, as soon as you started jiu-jitsu, you were kind of hooked already, addicted very quickly.
Oh, straight away, straight away.
Yeah.
Straight away. But the hardest part is Professor Rodolfo knows. Professor Joachim, he's a little bit older than us. So he was the big boys in the class bullying us around. But Professor Rodolfo and I, we are the same age. So we are like literally two kids in the class with all those grown-up men. And we used to get dashed every single day. And every day coming back there, and my mom's like, my son, what are you doing? You always come back, complain about pain here and that. And I look at her like, wow, I just found like a positive reinforcement to keep going and not to tell me that I need to give up.
Yeah.
And then I learned how not to complain anymore. But pretty much was tough for us. We were like the only two 14, 15 years old in the class, and training in a different, wasn't Gracie Barra way. So everyone in the train, they were like literally trying to destroy us every single row. But we kept coming back.
Maybe now's a good time to talk about some of your kind of first memories of training in that gym. I know you've mentioned it was very difficult. It was a different kind of culture, I guess, in the gym. You guys are getting smashed. Felipe's bullying you, but what are maybe some of your best and worst memories from the first few years of your training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I never thought about it. Like memories from the past. The good thing is I was becoming so tough. When I used to go back to school, I felt like I had like a superpowers, and no one could like annoy me because they knew I did jiu-jitsu. That was something very cool, and everyone is scared of you. So that was one of the good parts. But in class, I normally say that to some of the students. Like I remember, like my main goal in the class. For example, I don't remember who the people were, but I used to have like a hard rows, and a person used to submit me 5 times in one row, right? And that was, for me, it was like, wow, so hard. So my motivation is the next class to come again. And if that same person just submit me 4 times, I would go home like, yes, I only got to submit 4 times. So it used to be 5 until the day that that person didn't get me submitted. And I was like, wow. And I felt like I was progressing in the game. So that was one of the memories. And all other, let's say, teenager, a friend of mine from school that I used to bring over to the jiu-jitsu school. Like we used to bash this new guy like in the first class so hard that he'll never come back. So none of my friends stayed at the school. I think like me and Professor Rodolfo, we were like the only teenagers for like a long time. That survived the whole like and the training back time was quite different. Only warm up was 45 minutes, like kind of a CrossFit, just before you even see the positions. It was like an army style, but that was, I think that made us very tough, mentally tough.
I have lots of questions about, coaching and competition and stuff later, but maybe now is a good time to just ask, what do you think about the sort of state of jiu-jitsu? Because you trained, like you've just mentioned, when you started training, it was like a crucible, right? Really hard, lots of pressure, kind of probably a very unforgiving environment. And I know there's lots of critics, especially on the internet, there's always critics, right, of Gracie Barra specifically, but also jiu-jitsu schools generally for making jiu-jitsu too soft. Do you think that's true? Do you think it's a real problem for jiu-jitsu in like the modern era now?
Man, I don't see it's a problem. I think it's the way it is right now. It's a better way to have more people training. I'll give an example. Back time, to train jiu-jitsu was very tough. It's literally you sign up to a Navy. And then like no one wants to do it because they know they were gonna make you work so hard, and for you to come the next day would be quite impossible. So I believe the old school way pushed away so many talents that we never knew will exist. You know what I mean? They didn't exist because they were pushed away in the first like week or 2 of training, which the way the Gracie Barra approach nowadays, it's more like a jiu-jitsu for everyone. So it's not like a being soft, but we learn how to train, because there's a big difference between training and like fighting, right? One day, I'll give an example. One day I was with Professor Marcelo when he used to train Mark Hunt, the UFC fighter.
The Super
And
Samoan.
Super Samoa, and the Mark Hunt used to spar in the with a guy that was one of those ex-rugby player, a very famous guy, like a boxing guy. I can't remember his name, like a Samoa guy as well, like a New Zealand guy. And Professor Marcelo noticed that Mark Hunt, you'll never hit hard. And then he asked to Mark Hunt, man, why when you spar, you don't just like finish with the guy? And Mark Hunt looked to Professor Marcelo and said, Professor Marcelo, I'm just training. If I try to finish this guy, I'll finish him like in 30 seconds and I won't trade for the rest of the night, right?
Yeah.
So literally is, I believe, I've been thinking about that question quite a long time, but I believe if we can show Jiu-Jitsu for the maximum number of people around this world, we will, those ones that want to take the tough way, we can still deliver that to them. But in the same time, we can help a lot of those others. They don't want to take the tough way, but they can use like a lot of the benefits of Jiu-Jitsu in their personal lives. And that's something that is very valuable for us, I believe. And that's why we teach where we teach.
For sure. I think maybe if Jiu-Jitsu was like you described when you started training, I don't know if I would have stuck around in the beginning, you know?
Oh, you're a tough guy, Nick.
Maybe now. Wasn't like that at the start.
But what I was just going to say. But one thing very important, Professor Piu Piu, if you guys don't know, he's the GB wear person. He's like responsible for all the world GB wear, Gracie Barra wear. And once he came to Australia and he said to me, because that was my question to him, and he said to me, my question was, how can I create like a very tough team? He said, Pedro, first, you have to build the school to like a 200 students. When you have the 200 students, you select those ones that want to take that path, and then you create like a competition team with those guys. But if you create a competition team in the very beginning, what happens is your students will injure all of the new ones, right? And your school won't grow more than 50 students or 80 students. And then you won't be able to make a living of Jiu-Jitsu and show Jiu-Jitsu for the most, like number of students as possible. So that was very smart that he said to me, because that's literally what it was in Brazil. We were like a tough, but it was only 50 to 80 people maximum per school.
Yeah.
I
know other gyms that are like that in Sydney that I can think of. I'm not going to drop names, but I know schools which are basically kind of like that, right? Tough competitors coming out of them, but the gym never builds the same kind of community, I suppose.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So just to round off kind of, your personal history with Jiu-Jitsu, when did you come to Australia and what belt were you when you arrived in Australia?
It was very interesting because in Brazil, like the guys that come from Brazil, they know where we come from, South Brazil, and the family that we come from. We didn't have a choice of become a school owner, let's say, like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school owner, because you used to look to your professors and we used to see like the life they used to take. They need like a second job, or they couldn't like afford life. And our parents, they didn't give us the chance. It wasn't an option. And I think mainly if Professor Rodolfo went through this as well. So there was no option for me. So I couldn't believe that Jiu-Jitsu will take me somewhere. But when I came to Australia, I was a purple belt, 3 stripes. And I used to joke around with my friends from uni saying, "Well, man, I'm gonna go to Australia. I might like start teaching jiu-jitsu over there. What's in Australia? Like kangaroos. Like a lot of people think Brazil is like Amazon and monkeys, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, Australia was like kangaroos. So I gotta teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu over there. And then when I came in 2005, I didn't train to start with because all my friends I was living with, they were like kind of surfing style people, and I was more into surf, learning the language. And then I remember Professor Guga from Gracie Barra, Newcastle. He used to come around to my house with my friends in the end of the day to just to hang around. And he used to say, "Man, you're like a purple belt. What are you doing? Let's go to training." I was like, "Oh man, I just arrived in Australia. I just want to take it easy. I haven't been training for quite a long time, long years, right?"
Yeah.
And he took me 6 months. It took him to convince me to start training again. I said, "Man, you're a purple belt. Like you don't understand. There's no purple belt in Australia." So I came back to Jiu-Jitsu in 2005, and 2005 after like a 6 months break when I came to Australia. And when I used to go to the competition back time, like a purple belt, it was like a 1 or 2 fights and it was the main event of the day. That's how it was.
Yeah. Wow. And so Guga is the one who pushed you most to kind of keep your connection with jiu-jitsu.
Google was the one. Like my connection with jiu-jitsu wasn't broken. To be honest, I was just having a little break, and I used to call my professor in South Brazil because South Brazil there was no Gracie Barra over there, so we come from a different lineage.
Yeah.
And I used to call him and said, "Man, like there's only one school, and that's Gracie Barra. What do you think? Like, do you mind if I start training with them?" And the name of this person was Boxer. Boxer was one of our professors that time in Brazil. Fabiano was his name. He said, "Pedrinho," he's called me Pedrinho. My main, like I will be the happiest person in the world just to know you are keep training and believe in jiu-jitsu. That's all I want. So if you feel comfortable train with them, you have like my approval, and you can go there and train and as much as you want. You'll be always one of us, and when you come over, the door's going to be always, when you come back, the door's going to be always open to you. So I question him because like, I don't know how to say this, but nowadays, like the jiu-jitsu hierarchy, the respect people they have for the professors kind of changed a little bit than back time. So I was very into like respect for the person that built me to that point. And not different to you, Nick. I remember when you gave me a call saying, "Professor Pedro, I'm like moving close to Carlton. I need to keep training." And I gave you the same answer, like as like since you keep training jiu-jitsu, that's my like the main thing that you can say to me. And if you can keep with Gracie Barra, I'll be even happier than that.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, lucky me, I'm just training under one of your friends, man. It's barely like I never left, huh?
One of the toughest ones, huh? You're lucky.
Okay, so Guga was kind of, Guga was already with Gracie Barra, is that right?
Yeah, he was already Gracie Barra.
Yeah.
No, he was with Professor Marcelo.
Okay.
Black belt already.
And so then when did you mentioned a moment ago that like, you talked to some friends, or maybe I'll do jiu-jitsu in Australia, but you weren't too sure. When did the idea form that, I can open a gym, I want to open a gym, that, Australia is a good place, Sydney's a good place for me to open a school? When did that begin?
And like it was like a foreign person coming from Australia in a very early age. I came when I was 21. Man, you do any job that pays your bills. I started as a kitchen hand. I went for like a construction, removalist, cleaning, whatever I could pay my bills, and I didn't have the English. That was like very hard to start with. And then when the English language started getting like a better, and I was like, wow, you know, like what I do best in life nowadays was jiu-jitsu. And I remember that I was very young, 23 years old, and my partner back time was pregnant, and like there was like a child coming. I was like, oh, so imagine being like a father at the age of 24.
Mm.
And and it's like, I need to do something for myself. So I was studying. I started my career as a financial planner back that time, and I did for like almost a year. And at the same time, I decided to open a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, like part-time. But what motivated me the most was knowing Professor Marcelo Rezende and seeing like what he was doing for like literally, I think it was like 3 years I was training under him, and I saw like where he was going and how like much his school was growing. And when I saw that, and he came like with like a new car, and he bought like an apartment, and I was like, man, I can do what I love. I can touch people's life, because if you ask me later why I decided to teach jiu-jitsu is a different question as well. But why not try to live my life from jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
And that's when I opened Gracie Barra Hornsby.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2009, I believe. Can't remember when it was. It was like 2 days a week in a wrestling place, the PCYC in Hornsby. And I was very busy working during the day and teaching at the night time. And then the students start asking, "Hey, professor, can we have more classes?" And I was like, "Wow, how can I have more classes? Having like a full-time job during the day, teaching twice a week during the night, and having like a newborn child." It was a big challenge. And that's when I called Professor Marcio. Some of you guys might know Professor Marcio from Gracie Barra Hornsby.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to live him with in the past, flatmates. And I said, "Man, do you want to become my partner?" I'm like, opening Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. and I was a brown belt, right? I was like, "Oh, why not?" I said, "Man, I just need to teach 2 classes, and I teach 3 classes, and that's it." So that's how like we decide to open like a Gracie Barra, and that was the decision of opening Gracie Barra.
Yeah. And then how Bondi opened in, was it 2013? 13? Right. And yeah, wow. Was when you began coaching then with Professor Marcio, was that the first time you had done any coaching at that stage?
Well, I remember, and that's a very good story that I tell my students back time. People, they come to me and say, "Professor, I don't have time."
I used to say this to you all the time.
And you used to say all the time, right? But the thing is, one thing that I read in the Gracie magazine back times, like, how much do you love jiu-jitsu? And then the person think, okay, do I love jiu-jitsu? I love so much. If you don't find time to do what you love in life, something's completely wrong in your life. I was like, wow, that's deep, right? If you love jiu-jitsu and you cannot fit like at least 3 days in a week for jiu-jitsu, you should like jiggle things around in your life to find a third day. So that was like a pretty much that was pretty much like one of the mindset that I had to keep like pushing forward.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I remember you telling me that story in the past when I was training at Bondi. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I ended up leaving law to try, make my own career in jiu-jitsu. Starts with you putting this idea in my head, Professor. So thank you very much. Alrighty. Maybe, we are burning through the clock. So I had some other questions, but perhaps we'll skip some of those and maybe let's start talking about competition and your experiences as a coach. Gracie Barra Bondi is known in Sydney and New South Wales as, having a really strong competition team. You mentioned before, I can't remember who you said you were talking to about building a strong team.
Pew pew.
Pew pew, yes. And that, you know, building the school comes first. But so then once Gracie Barra Bondi began to be established, how did you kind of, did you know you wanted, oh, I want a strong competition team, I want to have like a you know, great kids program, great adult program, or did it just kind of start to happen, or what's the story there?
Man, it's just before I answer that, when I decided to leave from jiu-jitsu, it was when you realize, I think you're in that kind of a place now, Nick, when you realize how much jiu-jitsu can change someone else's life in a very different ways, like a therapy, becoming stronger, or critical thinking, knowing when to take opportunities to move to the next, or wait, all that invisible jiu-jitsu, become a better person. So all of those qualities and benefits that jiu-jitsu give to me, I was like, man, if I can give that to people, that would be like the best thing that I can do in my life. Like give the opportunity for every single person to become a better person. And that was my main goal, to grow the Gracie Barra Bondi in a very big way. I want to literally show jiu-jitsu for the most number of people. So, and then when that happened, one of the biggest regrets that I have in life, Nick, was not competing enough. I hardly compete comparing to people nowadays. And I was very jealous in a very healthy way of Professor Rodolfo, because Professor Rodolfo was always like one of the toppest competitors we had back time. And that Professor Rodolfo, that kind of person, he put like a backpack on his back and he went to, I think it was the Nationals in Rio de Janeiro by himself, right?
Yeah.
And be a very young person, like, wow. I think he made the finals, if I'm not wrong, with like a guy nowadays is like one of the top in the world as well. But my regret was I never have anyone in my life to open my eyes to see like you can achieve so much from jiu-jitsu, not only competing, but if competing you can. Yeah. And competition is a self-development. Every time that you compete, it's a self-development. So you always become a better version of yourself. And it's not about the competition, it's about all the preparation towards the competition that no one can see. Like eating well, sleeping well, training hard, focused. So all of that like is there's a big value in that. Mm-hmm. And so I was very like, okay, my time is gone. In my mind, in terms of become one of the best competitors in the world. And I went to realize, I started to realize that's too late. That I was kind of more like, I wasn't 100% jiu-jitsu. I was balanced jiu-jitsu with like a lifestyle of, you know, like going out with friends and enjoying life. And it was fun. I had a lot of fun. But I didn't decide to have like a very strong competition team. And I don't believe we in Bondi have like the strongest competition team in general. But I have that passion for competing inside me. Everything that I do is competing. Like in Gracie Barra Bondi, I always competing with myself. I always like, if I teach a class, I always try to teach a better class. If I do something, I always try to do a better next time. Everything that I do, I always try to compete. So I think we have like that competition inside of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And one fun thing is I was watching the podcast that Iceman had with Ricky and Ruby and Coach Romina, the top competitors, and I was watching that last night, and I said to my wife, wow, this, like, if I had like one competition where I could coach those four, I would be like so happy. and made me realize that having a guy like that you a student that you see competing is like having like a joystick. It's like, oh, go for the leg, go for the leg, go for the leg. Oh, no, come back, to down. So it's kind of like me competing as well, in a certain way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like I'm competing.
Understand. Yeah.
So it's so fun. It's so nice to go to a competition. I think some of the instructors, Professor Felipe, Professor Rodolfo, they feel the same. It's part of me competing.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we start teaching, it's not much time to train as well. So for us to compete, I'm very like surprised how much Professor Rodolfo can fit his competition with his schedule as well. Because running a school, it's a lot of times when you're not at school, people they think you're home not doing anything. Like our minds doesn't stop. And you have a lot of things in mind to make the school even better, to give like a better value for the students, a better class or better system or anything that make the students to get more value of what we're doing. But yeah, so I think that was one of the main things of competing. And my main goal when I opened a jiu-jitsu school was to teach kids. That was my main goal. Because I believe the kids are the future. And if I can get like that, like a jiu-jitsu seed very early in their life, it will help them so much with life itself. And then when you grow like a certain number of kids, then we start having, okay, let's get the ones that want to push an extra mile. And then we start building like a competition team. And then it brought back like that, like when I was young and training so hard, I tried to, I leave that with the kids when we start the competition, kids, and that it's literally just like knowing that's good for the competitors, good for the kids, but at the same time it brings me back to that competition emotions. And if you stop to think, the schools they have like one of the toughest, like one of the toughest competitors, normally they have like instructed that's very competitive normally. But I always say to everybody in the class, it's not about the competition. Only 10% competes. If you want to compete, we'll help you out. We're going to push you to that path. But if your goal is a different goal, we're going to help you if you whatever goal you have. So it's not about competition, because I never want any student from Bondi to think we are competitors. We're going to push the competition, and that's what you do. If you not compete, you're not welcome. It was completely opposite. The approach, you know how we approach over there. Of course, I see a potential in some of you guys, and you were one of my my biggest potential in the past, Nick. And I could see a big potential, and I was like, man, I just need this kid to tune it a little bit more. You know, like I never see like a sharp double leg entry for takedown the coach Nick. The speed, the way he pick up, Professor Rodolfo agrees. The speed that you have, the way you pick up people, like, man, I was like, my dream was to be that fast.
Oh man, your son keeps playing rugby, Professor, and then, man, I'm sure that's where it came from. You know, rugby is a base for jiu-jitsu, maybe.
Man, you know, sometimes it remembers like it reminds you of you. It's like, man, because my son, he only comes here every second week, and I don't have much access to him. But in the past, he used to train quite a lot. But at least now he's into rugby, and I was like, man, if he can get like a tough and pushing forward, at least later on when he comes back to jiu-jitsu, it's just like a tune to jiu-jitsu mode.
Yeah, polish up a little bit the tackle, it turns into a double leg, just like that.
No, everyone thinks he's so talented. It's so talented. It's like 80 years, like dragging him to the classes to make him train. And people think, "Whoa, what a talent he is!" Like, yeah, talent. He used to cry halfway to the gym, say, "I don't want to do jiu-jitsu." I said, "Man, there's no choice. It's mandatory."
People don't see the parents' work. Maybe.
No, they don't.
Okay, so I was going to ask a question about, do you think competition is mandatory or necessary for good jiu-jitsu development? But you already said you don't think it is, and you don't want to.
But I have one answer for you.
Sure, sure.
I always say to a lot of the students of Bondi, even in the past when I was a bit more like I teach more classes, before you get your blue belt, please do one competition. That's all I ask. If you hate it, you don't need to put your foot there ever again. But just I want you to experience that like a preparation, that emotions, anxiety, butterfly, that morning sickness, going to the toilet 5 times before your fight, and you go there and the adrenaline pumps, and you hold that person like seems like an incredible Hulk, so strong.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, here we go. It's just because when they get the blue belt, if they haven't competed as a white belt, when they get the blue belt, they think like, wow, I'm so far from like competing. Look at those blue belts in the competition. So they kind of never do the competition in their life. And if they do, if they don't want to do it, it's fine. But do once. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
Do once. If you hate it, and some people it's completely opposite. They're like, man, I love this. I want to do it again. And it becomes very addictive. I say, Arnold, for example, that trained with you guys in college, man, I see him in every single competition. He goes like 4 different divisions. And the beauty is he spent like 5 years, I believe, going to Bondi just to take his kid to train with us, Luca. And he always on the side of the mats, and you know, he's seen this for like at least 5 years before he joined. And I was like, man, he joined and all, like he's so into competition. So like good to see like when people they find like a purpose and something that it's like it's sparkle them to go ahead.
We're very lucky. He's a big part of the gym now. He
big boy.
Literally a big part of the gym. But I think between him and Rodolfo, they're like the real drive in the competition kind of energy in the gym. Both of them are like real life samurai. But I was going to ask, so competition is maybe not like mandatory or necessary. It's always a good idea. I think it's always a good idea, even if like you said.
But if you are to compete, I'll be always in your side. Believe me. You'll be my favorite.
Yeah. Come on, man. You're not meant to have favorites as a coach, Professor. Surely.
We don't have favorites, but when you see when you become an instructor, now that you're in their shoes, Nick, when you see someone like willing to learn more and more and more and more. Man, I have like for example, we have Liam here in the Zoom. I can see Liam. Man, Liam is like one of the best examples that I have in terms of every single class. He spends like an extra 5-15 minutes after the class asking questions, and then you get quite very and sometimes people think they're wasting our times, but they don't realize that we love giving like extra details.
Yes.
And then the competitors are the ones they are like hungry. You know, they come after you and they ask for more things and more things. And sometimes you don't even know the answer. You have to go and study and come back with something that makes me even more complete in a certain way. Yeah.
No, I agree. I beginning to experience that too, especially like some of the kids have a good connection with, and it's like, man, an 8-year-old kid who's willing to work hard and try to learn is so exciting to be around. Alrighty. So, we are running out of time. So I think we'll go to questions from everyone in a moment. So guys, you can get your thinking hats on and start thinking of questions you might have for Professor Pedro. But I wanted to ask for the student who, for some students, well, I know many students like this, competition is what kind of gave them, you spoke about jiu-jitsu being almost like a kind of therapy. And I think for myself, for others I know, it's putting yourself in competition, preparing for it is where that occurred. But for students who don't gravitate towards competition or maybe do only a handful of competitions, what is your advice to them so that they can kind of still draw from jiu-jitsu the same set of benefits that it can give.
And those that are not looking for the competition, something that we say in Bondi quite a lot, do not compare yourself to anybody in the class ever. Only compare yourself with your own self, become a better version of yourself, and enjoy your journey. Because the competitors, they will overtake you. They're gonna have the fast track to more skills, or it is what it is. The one that gives the most, they takes the most. But if you're not in that use as I use nowadays, kind of a therapy, is kind of like I know that my body is worked out and I feel healthy. I don't know. It's a lot of benefits from jiu-jitsu that you can't even see. Yeah. Like a problem solving. You have to think 3 steps ahead. But some black belts, they are already like 5, 7 steps ahead. And it's completely like life. If you just react to things that happens in your life, you're gonna get whatever your reaction will take you. But if you can stop and think truthfully, like, okay, I have like 3 options. If I can take this, that's what I'm gonna get. If I'm gonna take that, that's the other way. So if you can apply jiu-jitsu in your life, you're gonna make like smart decisions. Yeah. And any way in life that you are, in a relationship, in a job, in a whatever, it's all about knowing how to breathe when you're under pressure, so you can think clearly. And when you act, you know what's coming to be the counterattack on that, so you can count again. Yeah. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu in life, that I think.
That's it. I agree. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for everything tonight. I got more little prompts I'd written for myself to get to, and I can always duck back into those. But maybe if anyone else has any questions for Pedro, of course, it doesn't have to be sort of about competition and coaching. Maybe now's a good time to try to pick his brains about anything at all. You can drop a message into the chat if you like, or if you just unmute yourself and say hi, we can proceed that way.
Yeah, if I answer a question, if no one has a question, I answer a question that is probably maybe it's not in someone else's mind, but I can see here, for example, a few of like very old students from Bondi, like Team, Lion, Raphael, even Ricky, but you can see his face there. Maybe I can see everyone up, in my screen here. But one thing that all the higher belts in Bondi they have is they learn that when you are injured, you do not take a time off. You come to the school, you put your kimono, you get in the class. Oh, but I can't do the warm-up. You don't need to do the warm-up. I just want you to come in exactly the same days that you used to come before, so you don't break the habit. And also, once you break the habit, maybe your partner gets used to you to stay home for those extra nights that you use not to spend. And then it becomes like, oh no, but I am making dinner tomorrow. And she knows like you don't have a habit, you don't have a routine, and now you're out of your routine. So I said, if you have like a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to go to training, I'm injured, go to train.
Yeah.
Do like something else. Use your jiu-jitsu, explore like a different side of your jiu-jitsu. Of course, now if you are sick, please stay home. Don't come and share your journey with us. You stay home. But if you're injured, and I know those guys, they make to the top, injury is part of your journey. Knowing how to learn how to live with pain and injury is the only way they're gonna take you to. It's like life. It's like life. You're in a relationship, in a job, is always you're gonna fall down, and then what you're gonna have? You're gonna have a break. You're gonna give up. It's up to you. But if you keep pushing forward, we're gonna succeed and you're gonna achieve whatever goal you have in that scenario. So that's one very important thing that I say. And I see the people that had a break from injuries, they come back later on. That's fine. I had a break as well from injury, and I came back later on. Okay, so I have some questions here, huh? The
Yeah,
dad
here
with
they,
4
here they
kids.
come. Yeah, maybe just quickly we get to Cammie's question. I think Cammie joined a little bit late, so she maybe missed some of the beginning of the discussion, but she wanted to know what time you've taken off training. Like when you came to Australia, how long did it take you to get to the mats?
It took me like 6 months.
Mm.
But I was in a completely different world. I was like with my best friend here in Australia. I was surfing every day, going to school at nighttime, and then after I was working. I just want a break. When I was 21 and I want to go partying, I always had like a relationship. So very early, I was single. I just want like no commitment. And none of my friends that time was into jiu-jitsu. So I was in a different scenario. Until the day, like they all went back to Brazil. I was like, okay, now who is my favorite in Australia? And then like that's the beauty of like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. It's like we all like a family, cousins, brothers, sisters. It's a brotherhood and sisterhood that we have, which we don't have in any other sport, because like a full contact. You know what I mean? Like I tell Rick sometimes, Rick, I cuddle you more than I cuddle my wife in my life, right?
It's true.
No, in a good way. In a good way.
Course,
like we have this like a physical contact with the other person, which is very like unique. Yeah, but that's it, Camila. 6 months maximum, so it's time for you to come back and train.
Yes, Camila. Anthony asks, how do you balance life as a father, business owner, jiu-jitsu coach, and practitioner?
Jesus.
Hard question.
Man, it's Anthony, one of the biggest advantage that I have is jiu-jitsu is my profession. So competition for me is I'm working. Going to train for me, I'm working. So my wife would never have to say anything like, oh, another competition, or oh, you're going to jiu-jitsu again, because it's part of my work. But when I was in the past, when I was girlfriends, was quite like noise. But it's in Gracie Barra, there's something that we always say. It's in jiu-jitsu, body, mind, and spirit. That's the secret that Hideo Gracie, Carlos Gracie Massa always try to teach us through jiu-jitsu. So balance your life. Like I don't need to be like 5 days a week with my kids. I don't need to be 5 days a week with doing jiu-jitsu or training. It's just a bit of balance. And then there is a phase in your life that you're gonna have to focus a little bit more in certain areas. But it depends on the urgency of that area. For example, if I know my family needs me more often, I'm gonna fulfill that part, and I'm gonna withdraw myself a little bit from the other activity. I wouldn't quit anything. I just will recalibrate where I need to put my focus a bit more. Feeling healthy, it's one of my main thing, because older you get, your body doesn't correspond very well. And the new guns training jiu-jitsu, even if they're not very experienced and skillful, they will try to patrol you with all the strength. So that's something that I have in mind, like keep doing your workout, because if you want to be a black belt, there will be all the young guys trying to use you to prove themselves, and you can't let that happen. And so that's it. It's pretty much balance. Do like the 3 or 4 things that we do at the same time: family, work, jiu-jitsu. And then sometimes you have to put your attention in what needs you more at the moment. But sometimes you start withdrawing yourself from jiu-jitsu quite a lot, and that's the problem. And that's when I like to set up a new goal, which is like a competition. So a competition, I know if I set up a competition in my mind, they're gonna give me like 8 weeks focused in jiu-jitsu. And when you get 8 weeks focused in jiu-jitsu, your passion for jiu-jitsu grow so much that like you back on track in jiu-jitsu. So I used to use competition as a way to bring me back to the competition world, to the jiu-jitsu world. But it's not easy. It's not easy. Like the people, they see black belts like we are the happiest person in the world, the best lifestyle, and every student, when they come to the gym, we are there like always smiling. Man, you don't know that I was just crying 1 hour ago before I walked to the gym, right? But I have to welcome you guys walking in, and I have to put that face, and we go through like all the hard parts in life as anyone else. But jiu-jitsu always, it's like when you train, you take those endorphins out of your body, you feel like light and relax, and that's my therapy. That's my therapy.
Terrific. Thank you. Another one. Man, the questions are pouring in. We're going to be here till midnight, Professor. I hope you got some time. Jess has asked, how do you keep on top of continuing to learn new jiu-jitsu? Do you love John Danaher like Rodolfo does?
Yes, it's not easy. I personally feel that I'm behind. But I'll tell you what, the best outcome of running a competition team is you're gonna make a lot of students so like hungry, like thirsty to learn, that they'll come to you and they're gonna make you think even more. And sometimes I have like, for example, I know like maybe is Ricky still here? Ricky's here. So I don't need to go to Danaher anymore, Jess. I just ask Ricky, what's the latest thing they're using? And then Ricky goes there and show me exactly what they're using. And he kind of filters everything that doesn't work. Yeah. It's like, Professor, just use this, and this. And if you want to like know how to avoid those things, just do that. But if I had more time in hands, Jess, I would probably study much more. But with kids at home, it's like when you finish work, you come home. By the time I go to sleep, it's midnight. And then when I wake up, it's already like the kids screaming and hungry, and there's not much I can do. So it's the time that I have to study is when I'm driving to the school, to be honest. But it's more like a listening to the podcast and actually studying in school. But Professor Rodolfo, enjoy as much as you can with your videos, because when the fatherhood when the fatherhood happens, it's we have to balance, and then you'll be asking the same question that Anthony is asking, like how we balance life. Right? Yeah, but it's hard.
Oh man, he's got me. You've got Ricky. I don't have kids coming anytime soon. I'll just keep downloading the information.
But that's pretty much what's gonna happen until like you, Professor Rodolfo, can. Like if you come up with so many answers, Professor Rodolfo, that he haven't seen yet, like he's like, wow, I don't need to sign up for John Danaher course anymore. Just ask Nick.
We all talk faster than John Danaher too, so save heaps of time. Tim asks, Professor, what advice would you give to someone who wants to transition and aspires to open up a jiu-jitsu school? What have been maybe your key learnings in the process of two schools?
Man, the one thing that I have in mind, Tim, is if you open a school and you believe in what jiu-jitsu is in terms of the benefits they give to everyone, there is no way it's not going to succeed. There's no way. Because one, if you're already like asking that questions, you're so passionate about, and you know how much you can touch people's life. And that was my main my main criteria. If I can change a little bit of every single child that I can like have a contact with, that will change like a community in years to come. So it's literally, there's what I say to in Bondi. I always try to get more students, because like the bills having that school is very high. So we need numbers to be able to operate and give the highest number of classes and everything that we offer. But if you're thinking about like how do I transition, a lot of people, they don't, and I'll tell you why they don't, because sometimes in life to go ahead, you have to give like a 3, 4, 5 steps back. A lot of people, they don't want to. But when you take those steps back and things start working, and then later on, when you like, man, I remember when I started GB Bondi, I had one student was Sahand back time. I don't know if you some of you guys remember Michael, remember
I remember
Sahand,
Sahand. Yeah.
Raphael, team, all you guys remember, you guys have been there.
Of course.
Man, I had a dream. I knew it would work because I've done before. I saw Professor Marcelo, and the best thing, I'm offering a product that is, man, it's you guys like so lucky to have someone with such experience. For example, like Professor Rodolfo, Professor Felipe, to share the knowledge of Jiu-Jitsu in your community. You know what I mean? It's like but it wasn't easy. I was working as a security guard in the marquee. I was sleeping in Professor Mars's lounge sofa. Man, I had like, it wasn't easy. But I know like when you're in a different situation in life, and nowadays, like it's quite easy to get some loan here in Australia as well. So you just need to work numbers to make that dream get out of the paper. But the passion that you have, it's like, you know, it doesn't go wrong. And that's why I think what Professor Rodolfo saw when he came to Australia to visit his wife's Jess wife back time, and he came and visited in Bondi. He saw this school, like a very healthy school, like, and I was able to live life from Jiu-Jitsu, teach Jiu-Jitsu to everybody. And I saw Professor Rodolfo so excited. I was like, man, I think Professor Rodolfo was one of the guys that deserved the most leave from Jiu-Jitsu, because I know he had no choice in the past as well. And I always tell him like he would be like one of the like a world champion back time, 100% in his adult age, and I believe he got very close. But the only thing that I think didn't make it happen is because he had to be like like your path or you were, Nick, studying full time, and parents wouldn't give like a second option. And then we look back and we see where we are now and why Jiu-Jitsu end up with giving like a quality life for those instructors. Like, man, if my dad could see that like 30 years ago, I would be like a world champion. And like, can teach Jiu-Jitsu around.
I almost invited my parents to this interview, and then I thought, man, if they get on and me and Pedro just talk about how good jiu-jitsu is, and it, you know, Gracie Barra's a great school to start a gym with, maybe it's not going to sit too well with them.
But it's yeah, that's I remember when you had a conversation with parents when you decide to give it a go in working for jiu-jitsu. But just to finalize, team, it's don't think it's easy. It's a lot of hard work. People, they see like we doing, but it's not simple. It's very complex, any other work. And one thing that I realized, like, you know how disciplined like an athlete is to achieve higher results in competition. You know, it's the same in open school. You need to be like a top level, like a world class disciplined person with whatever you do. And that's it. That's like one thing that I realized, like, and I see like some people here, like when I try to see, man, how did that CEO from that company so like successful? But man, like a very like successful CEO, he is like the equivalent of like a world-class level athlete in any sport, but in a different scenario, you know what I mean? with discipline, with like resilience and drive, dream, everything. But don't think too much.
Just commit, bro.
Just commit.
Alrighty, so look, we're running, more and more past where I thought we'd end up. There's still a few more questions, Professor Pedro. So maybe if you don't mind, we'll try smash them out sort of very quickly with shorter answers. I'm, aware of the fact that you have.
That's okay. I got the night off today.
Oh, really?
The kids are already going to bed.
Okay, good. Let's go then, guys. If you have more, just drop them in the chat. Camilla has asked another question. How many years it took you to get to your black belt?
Oh, Camille, it's that's one thing that Professor Felipe has, like one of the best answers that I ever heard. He always tells to the students, it's not about how many years, it's how many hours you have on the mats, right? Because I'll say it took me 13 years. But if I calculate the amount of time I was injured, and no one told me to go to Jiu-Jitsu when I was injured, I take like 4 months to recover. When I came to Australia, it took 6 months. Or, like I had a relationship that you broke up and you take like 2 months to get out of doing something else. So if I bring it 2 hours, I think it was the right time for me. But back then I was like, man, I've been like at 6 years as a purple belt, and already about how many years training as a purple belt? 2.5. Like, so you kind of, on time. So it's not about years anymore, and everyone has the right time. But that's another question. That's like I'm a little bit old school in terms of Professor Felipe as well. He always bring me back to that scenario. Like, to become a black belt, you have to be a black belt, right? And the 3 main things is like skills, of course. And that's you only get training. Commitment, it's like you turn up, like to become a black belt, you in a brown belt, you have to show up 3 times a week at least. And the personality, if you are a person that's not that doesn't have similar values that we with Gracie Barra always remind every class and everything, like to have those values in place. Under me, I would not give like a black belt to a person that I know. It's like, one day you have like I'm a black belt under Professor Pedro, and the guy is like a completely, douchebag. Yeah. I don't know, like, like nah, not from here. Professor Felipe and I sometimes we joke around, like, man, like who's gonna give like one day a black belt to that person like this? I said, man, it has to be you, not me.
Okay, another one. Amar has asked, how do you pick up a new game in your jiu-jitsu if no one in your gym is really practicing or playing that game?
Man, Amar, it's a very nice, very interesting question. I always say there's 2 ways for you to learn jiu-jitsu. 1, you copy someone else, or 2, you understand what is your instinct. And then whatever people teach you, you just adapt your instincts, and that's going to be your game. But sometimes I want to do a game that someone else does, but my body doesn't move that way. So you can try. If it fits to like your body type, like go for it. But I don't really know how to answer that question, me myself, because I never been in that scenario. I never want to we didn't have access to many positions back then, and I didn't want to. And when I start like developing different games, I was losing my identity, and I went back to my main game. But seeing like a coach Ricky from Bondi, like if you see him doing jiu-jitsu, like 70% of his jiu-jitsu, it's not me at all. And he's a guy that always watched videos, and then when he goes to school, he'll practice those new moves to everybody, and he's been like a blue belt or purple belt, and he taps to white belts every single week. But I know he taps because he's trying something new. And the problem when you try a new game, you're gonna tap, but you don't want to tap. So then you don't try the new game anymore because you have that ego. So if you want to try a new game, be ready to tap as many times as possible until you get there. And then in the end of the class, always ask your instructor or your professor, like 5 minutes in the end of the class, how can I, what do you think about this? And then if you see it's worth it, why not like try a private class? And when I say a private class, I'm not trying to sell a private class, but I think back time, if like money for a private class wouldn't change much, and I could have one private class a month with my instructor or my professor, man, my game would be like much better, because your instructor and your professor are the ones looking at you playing every single day. And then you know which game will be more compatible to yours. And those are the guys that you want to listen to. So keep studying. Don't worry if no one in the gym does that game. Keep studying, and like you have like a Professor Rodolphe is like an encyclopedia. Even if it's not his game, if you show him what it is, I'm 100% guarantee he will give the answer for that game. Because I know a lot of other games, but I don't use. I don't like it. It's not for me. But I have to know, because I have to defend that against me, right? So I'm pretty sure Professor Rodolphe will be like, he will know everything that you try to implement.
Awesome. Awesome. Alrighty, a few more. Giovanna has said, Professor Pedro, the situation for women in jiu-jitsu has been changing over time. I think a lot, especially in the last few years, right? What do you think about women's jiu-jitsu, the space for women in Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
The space for women, I never saw like a difference between women and a man training jiu-jitsu, to be honest. I never had any it's always like the same. So you're there to train. And I remember when you were like a teenager, there was this girl, maybe Professor Felipe, Professor Rodolfo, remember, she was, I think it was Gabi. Gabi was her name. She was like a purple belt back time. Man, she would smash us. Professor Felipe, maybe not, but Professor Rodolfo, like, she used to smash me. Like, it was so hard. And so we saw like, we were like those kind of people. They were like bashed for like a female in back time. And for us, like, wow. So since the very young, I understood there's like, if you're very sharp and technical, there's no difference. But one thing that I see as a woman, I believe in this world that we are raised a lot of times, like your father, your mother, they always expect, look after your sister. She's fragile. Or when you grow up, or you find a boyfriend that will look after you. Or so you like women, they are raised in a certain brainwashing that they are like weaker than men, right? And a lot of them, they believe in that, because the society that we live, we are raised like this, you know, women, they're fragile. Don't hit a woman. Of course, you don't want to hit a woman, but in that way, like of, and the women are raised believe in those things. You know what I mean? And that's not true. Like if you see like a boy and a girl when like they kids, there's no much difference. The girls are always better than the boys. They're like ahead in mindset. But another thing that happens a lot that I notice, in Bondi, I have like a good group of women, but then when there's too many women together, they start like, I don't know, I think like when you're a boy, I study a lot of psychology for kids, and boys, we just want to be respected. And the girls normally want to be accepted. That's normally they are when they kids. The boys, we don't care if you accept me or not, but if you respect me, that's all I care about. But the women normally they it's more like me accept in that group or in that scenario. So with the team, like I would say, don't worry too much. Try to build. I know you do a good job with us, Giovanna. Try to motivate a lot of the girls to come together and train together. But don't worry too much with it's not going to be like a very big women team, just like a trainer jiu-jitsu with whatever is in front of you, because it's not easy to keep like everyone happy. And but we as all those years, you always try to work very hard to build like a strong women team. We always do.
Maybe Liam has a question in the chat first, but just because it's also about, you know, women in jiu-jitsu, I might skip to Storm's question really quickly. Sorry, Liam. But Storm wanted to know, do you differentiate how you teach between female and male students?
Not how I teach, but I'm very picky who I gonna partner them with, because it's like this. A lot of males they don't know. Sometimes what happens with women training, if you like, I know you're very competitive and strong, and I saw that guillotine in that competition. You almost put the other person to sleep, right?
Yes,
but
what happened?
What happened? It was in camera, right? What happened is when you start hitting hard, a male, let's say, and that person is much stronger physically than you, he's gonna abuse from his strength to hit you back. And that's when I know like who I should partner like the girls with, because sometimes I'd rather partner with like a blue or purple belt or a brown belt than someone that's new, that's still in that phase of being proven. And how can like a woman give me a hard time, you know, that kind of mentality. So it's very important. All I say to the male when they go to the girls, say, listen, you cannot submit, because I know like if you submit them, they're gonna come harder to you. And we had one of the best competitors back time, a female, was Panda. I don't think she was already in America when I think you started with Professor Rodolfo, but that girl, she was like not even 50 kilos, right? And she used to give all the guys a hard time. And sometimes guys, you hit her back. She was very resilient. She would just like, okay, next. She wouldn't take any of those personal. Next. So she was a kind of a person. She got in a level that I didn't need to match her anymore. She could go with anyone. And she has that scenario that she would, if she doesn't want to keep training, she's like, oh, I'm just like, I had enough, my shoulder is bad, and she'll make her way out of the role just because it wasn't worth going to someone that was so rough and like irrational. And yeah, and Camila is asked the question. Camila, which is, I used to call her like my pit bull. Camila used to smash Panda. And I remember when Professor Marcel said, man, Panda is so good. I said, man, I have someone that takes Panda for nothing.
Camila used to smash me too.
Yeah, but resilience, and if you don't feel like rolling with someone, just come up for a way out, but in a nice way. Just say like, can we stop? I might come up with something, just not to make the other person upset. But when I'm partnering up students and I mix it up, I don't say gender, I just say, guys, if you are much stronger than the other person, please step back and try to be more technical. And if you are not as strong as the other person, be careful, because if you start hitting hard, that person gonna hit you back and it's not gonna be fun. So try to be technical, right? Because sometimes in the middle of the row, your blood hits up and the person goes blind and just gonna push you back in a way that's not nice. So be careful who you're gonna push hard. And you know those guys or girls that you cannot push hard, use them more for like a position training. Try to get out of situations or try to do like a lasso guard or something else. And those ones that you can give everything, they know they're gonna play fair with you, then you push everything for those ones. So know how to, those ones they push hard. And that's, and for guys it's the same. Sometimes I'm gonna train with someone that I know if I'm gonna push hard, of course I'm gonna push even harder. So I go quite easy because I don't want to get in that stress in that training, right? Or if I know that's like getting stressed, or I just lock in a pit stop position, like a closed guard, or position that like you control and the person cannot move much, and I just buy some time then. That's something to think.
Tell you what, you don't need to worry about Storm. She bullies everyone.
I know. I saw her fights. I saw her fights. No worries, Storm. Keep training.
Okay, one last question, and then I think we'll say our goodbyes. Liam has asked, or Liam's written, there are so many personalities we meet on the mats. Everyone's attracted to different aspects and techniques within jiu-jitsu. Is there, or what do you think is the aspect of your personality which you can feel has influenced how you are on the mats or at competition?
Man, that's like that's one of the sales. That's one of the selling point for jiu-jitsu, and that's for a team. You'd like to hear that. I believe everyone, when they come to jiu-jitsu and they roll, the way they like it, imagine like a white canvas, right? The way they roll, it's exactly personality outside the mats. Some people is like very like they don't like to think twice. They hands on, they go forward, they do whatever. Other people's they just sit back and they don't move if they don't know the position. Other people they sit back, they were like, you know what, I have nothing to lose, and they move. The other person, if the things that go their way, they get angry. So it's exactly what you are outside the mats. It's your mirror when you're rolling, right? And the beauty is jiu-jitsu gonna put you through so many different scenarios in your jiu-jitsu life that you're gonna have to think twice and react in a better way. Otherwise, you're gonna have the same results. And that unconsciously, you're gonna take that to your personal life. And that's when it gets back to that scenario where like you have to make decisions and you're like, okay, if I go for this side, that's what I get. If I go to that side, that's what I get. If I pretend that I don't want anything, I might attack and get something. But if I show that I want something, I might not get anything. So it's very like, it can change a little bit of your, I wouldn't say you change, you kind of tune your personality with jiu-jitsu. Because sometimes you can be very aggressive, you can do whatever, but someone in jiu-jitsu is gonna put in your place and you'll be like, oh, holy moly, what happened here? You know what I mean? And then you that anger or you're too passive. So that's why I like jiu-jitsu. And Marcel Carlos Jr., apparently, he used to nickname each student, used to have like a kind of nickname which was an animal. For example, he would call this guy the monkey because his jiu-jitsu was like a kind of a monkey style. He would jump everywhere, he would climb up. That guy was a snake. He would be like, just like trapping someone around very slow, and in the time to attack, he'll get you. The other guy was a lion, would make like you would destroy everything in front of them. The other guy was the possum, would pretend nothing happens and then jumps. So it's, and you can, and the thing is, when you get more advanced and even a brown belt, purple belt, whatever, you can start play this kind of like poker face. And then one of the main things that I learned in jiu-jitsu is if you are tired, don't show that you're tired. If you're overconfident, don't show you're overconfident. If you're like afraid, don't show any emotions. So the person doesn't know what's happening, because a lot of times when I train with someone and I know they're like, in my mind's like, they're guessing out. And I'm guessing out as well, because I'm guessing out. So if I just keep my poker face, and that happened to me a lot of times, that's how I learn. Or sometimes you're too confident to, like one day, Ricky came to me and said, man, I can't do anything with Brano. I said, of course, Ricky, Brano has one of the best defense, but the problem is you keep attacking him the whole time. So he gonna only defend and you won't get anywhere. So how about you just pretend you're a bit tired and you relax a little bit and you let him feel a bit comfortable and get out of his comfort zone and open up. And that's the time that you have to attack him or to do whatever you want. So, and that's personality. Maybe his personality is like when he wants something, he keeps attacking the whole lot. But sometimes if that personality is not working, how about that personality that like I pretend, like the reverse psychology, right? You pretend you don't want anything with the situation. And then the person start like open up and then you get what you want. So there's this feel like, and that's like a behavior outside and that's why we believe that we become a better person, because we learn all of those things, and you take that to life, to family, to kids, to husband, to wife, to professional friends. We're much more like open mind, and we're not critical too much, opinionated. We just like, you know what, that's your style. You know what I mean? That's my style. If I play your style, I know where you're coming from. It's very interesting, and that's what like I love from jiu-jitsu. That's like the personal self-development that you can get out of all of this. In the end, you're getting fit and you know how to fight. If it comes into a self-defense, we didn't cover this here today, Nick, but that's okay. Like we had few like fights in the street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think every jiu-jitsu, Professor Felipe, when I was a kid, he was known as like the ninja. Like he'll do like things that like wow, man, Shockman is like a ninja. He will do like those cartwheels and punch someone and like. So you have a lot of stories from the past, but not anymore. Here in Australia, if you get in trouble, you go to jail straight away. So we had to think twice before we act, right? Yeah.
I think I've told some students before the story you told us. I remember at Bondi once of being on the Manly Corso. I think he had to put a guy to sleep like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and I get the guy to sleep 2 times.
Yeah.
And he was, when I was choking him from behind, and I rear naked choke, and he was like, and he was a big boy from Muay Thai. He was kind of crying, "Oh, I'm dying," and I was whispering in his ear like, "I'm killing you slowly." I don't want to kill him, right?
Yeah, of course.
But he never been in a choke situation. And then he passed away. I get his legs, I pull up, and the blood goes back, and the police come, and I just hand it to the police. Said, "Man, take this guy." But it was like, and that's the beauty as well from jiu-jitsu. Like I didn't even. Never been a cage fight, never been fighting too much, but when things happen to you, you're so used to this body wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu that naturally you just like, and in my mind it's like this: if this guy cannot knock me out while I'm like getting my entrance, that's it. The only chance he has the first like a 5-10 seconds to knock me out. If he missed the first punch and I glue in this person, man, that's, you know, they're going to be like a tough role, but with all the experience that we have, it becomes very easy in real life. And when it's one-on-one, right?
Otherwise, it's Nike's on, done up tight, running the other way. That's my strategy. All righty, look, that's all of our questions. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time, Professor Pedro. I got emotional a few times just listening to you talk again, hearing you talk about jiu-jitsu the way, exactly how I remember back at Gracie Barra Bondi. And it's funny now that so much time has passed since I was training with you under Gracie Barra Bondi, some of the things you said, you know, maybe it was the first time I heard it when I was at Bondi, and hearing it the second time now, I can see how it's like impacted my life ever since then, even when I didn't realize it. So thank you again for your time tonight. Thank you for everything you've given me in my life, man. I tell the students at Carleton, you're the platform that has enabled me to, you know, pursue jiu-jitsu. So really, thank you so much for everything. Just before we go, I know Rodolfo has a few words to say as well.
Yeah, so Professor Pedro, thank you so much for firstly the kind words towards me, which I think they are true. I think most of the things you're just saying because you're a really good friend with me. But I think your biggest asset amongst a lot of them is your ability to inspire people and to teach stuff to people. And I think this evening was a lot about you, you know, passing on your experience to us, and it's incredible because although we chat quite often and stuff, every single time I hear from you, every single time we have a conversation, I learn a lot. So yeah, I would like to say thank you for the time. Thank you for, you know, teaching me a lot every single time I hear you talking.
No, it's been a pleasure, guys. It's been a pleasure for the invitation. Just to finalize, like just knowing that you guys have Professor Rodolfo as a professor, it's I know you guys are gonna be in a very good hands. And I know how much it means to you, Professor Rodolfo, to be able to live your dream, which is jiu-jitsu. And there's no words can describe that. And knowing like someone that started with me a long time ago, different goals, different plans, and we end up like in the same country, doing the representing the same team, you know, doing the same thing. It's kind of like a very very pleasant to know, and knowing that Nick is doing a great job at Gracie Barra Carleton as well. It's something very unique, because I always knew, Nick, you have a very good potential, not only on the mats, but it takes a lot of outside the mats, like the charisma, the way it treats people, and to see life. It's very they're very nice to see that you are like taking that approach with jiu-jitsu as well in that way. And for everyone that tuned tonight, I'm not a very like a talkative person, and here I can talk quite a lot, but just maybe because I'm in front of like a device here, I feel more like comfortable, right? But just to see like you guys here and supporting all these difficult times that we're going through now, like with not be able to train. You've done it once, you're doing that again, and if you have to do that again, you do it again. And in the end of the day, we're all going to be together, training together. Make sure I come and visit Gracie Barra Carleton every now and then. Be more social as well, because sometimes you are too focused on one thing and I end up not even visiting anywhere else. So yeah, so that was. It was nice to see a lot of familiar faces.
Thank you so much.
A lot of people that I haven't seen yet. And that's all, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Pedro. Appreciate it. And to everyone from Bondi who jumped on, I'm very cool to see all your faces, hear some of your voices again as well. I hope you guys stay well throughout, you know, everything we're all going through here. So guys, that's it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, your weekends. Stay tuned because we'll do another one next week. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Nick.
Professor Felipe.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
My
everyone from
pleasure.
Bondi.
Thank you.
Professor Pedro. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. It was awesome.